Northwestern. We're part of the IEMS department. We are a professional master's program focused on experienced engineers with 3 to 5 years of experience. I'm also an alum of the program, and I guess that's all I have to say, unless people have questions about the program itself. Azgar is an alum from about, I want to say, a year and a half ago or thereabouts. And he's been at Google ever since. I think he's one of our distinguished, respected alum that he's come back several times, very gracious, and we want to thank him for, not just this session, but every session he's held with us. So thank you, Azgar.
Okay, and then
Hi,
Renaissance.
Everyone.
Yeah, hello. Thank you.
I'm Renaissance McIntyre. I'm the Associate Director for the MEM program and then one of the other programs at McCormick. And I work with Mark to help students get through the program as successfully as possible. I will turn it over to Azgar. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Ren, and thank you for the wonderful introduction, Michelle and Professor Mark. So it's been an honor always to come back to MEM program and also the Northwestern OP-related programs and speak to students here. So I will try to briefly introduce myself. So I started my MEM program in 2021 September, and I graduated in June through a 9-month track. So before this, I was working back in India with the Department of Science and Technology, which is a public sector entity, for about 8 years. And then before that, a short stint at Delphi Automotive Systems. And then, things happened, COVID happened, and then I came to do my master's, and that's how I ended up eventually after master's in Google. So it has been a little bit of a roller coaster ride with lots of things happening in the last span of 2 to 3 years, whether it is globally or whether it is in terms of the changes that are happening. If we take the transformations, adapting to work from home, and the development of AI in the last few days, especially the way how it is impacting. So all these things put together is something which helped me kind of be where I am right now. In this journey, MEM has played, and Northwestern has played a very important role. So, without much ado about my other things, let me jump directly into the topic. So, Michelle has put here a brief agenda of things to discuss today. So, as we had introductions, how did I came to work at Google? So, yeah, this is a bit of a journey. I was an engineer back in India, working, as I said, in a public sector setup with science and technology outreach background. But I was strongly involved in maintaining the infrastructures of different organizations within my department. So this allowed me to get exposure with how networks are maintained, in addition to lots of other aspects. So eventually, my experience in networks is what helped me get land a role in Google Enterprise Network, which is the team which is responsible for maintaining the whole Google's enterprise network across the globe. So we have close to 1,000 offices across different countries, and this entire network is maintained by this team. And we also have something, Google Global Network, which is a little bit of wider organization within which Gen is based. And this is the team which maintains the whole Google's network. So whether it is Gmail, Google search, everything, it needs connectivity at the end of the day in the backend. So this technical infrastructure is maintained by this team. So submarine cables and whatnot, to connect continents, and also to ensure that the growth happens of this network in such a way that it is in line with the way how developments are happening in the world on internet space. So if I have to put it crudely, Google has enough network to carry the internet twice. So we also ensure that this is continuously updated to stay in line with the standards. So all of this is maintained by Google Global Network team. So any questions so far on this topics that I mentioned, basically the Google Enterprise Network and Google Global Network? So those questions will help me get a direction as to what are the topics that I should be emphasizing. If you have any questions, you can feel free to put it in the chat. If not, you can let me know later as well. You can unmute as yourself and then directly ask any questions that you want to. With
Ooh,
that,
Asgar, can I ask
yeah,
a question? Yeah,
please.
or you can certainly raise your hand too if that's more comfortable for you to get cued to come off mute. Did
Sure, sure.
you come to want to work in this specific arena within Google because you had some background in it previously before you came, or was this opportunity aligned, and that was how you came to find it? Just curious to know, like, hey, did you have previous background and knowledge that helped you with this role?
So that's a good question. I would put it this way: it's a part of both, I would say. So definitely, I wanted to have like a direction, something which is aligned with my background. I did not want to venture into something like totally unrelated. So that is where it answers the question that whether I was inclined. Yes, I was inclined, but my previous role allowed me to have it was like an octopus. Like I had like different functions, so you name it, like I can pivot my profile in that direction. So that's how I kind of leverage the Northwestern infrastructure, whether it is career development or giving the mock interviews and then like getting the profiles evaluated. So that allowed me to pivot the way how I want depending on the roles that were open. So on a broad level, I had a direction of yes, I would like to be in a role which is aligned with my background, but I was open to different companies, whether it is finance, whether it is big tech or any such thing. So, but eventually, like it was Mark who was guided. I mean, who guided me like throughout the process of what type of role will lead where. So eventually, this was in line with what I wanted. So thank you, Mark, for that. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. So it was basically leveraging like MEM program comes with like some sort of an experience requirement for students. So that is something helpful because like the program teaches you lots of toolkit and frameworks which can be leveraged in such a way that you can pivot the way how you want. So that was one of a very important factor in how I went and joined Google. So I believe irrespective of whether it is MEM or any other program, it's just that like the bottom line is the roles that we perform or like we intend to go into should align with what you can offer. So how do you do that alignment is something very very important, whether it is Google or any other company, I would say. So that's where like it becomes very important to leverage your strengths because nobody is going to market you better than yourself. So how you do that is the process. That is the hack for getting interview calls or we're getting like job offers. So I know it is easier said when I am on the other side like and having got an offer, but I do know that like the process is a little bit of a grind and we have to go through that. It's part of the process, so we should never kind of get disappointed with the fact that okay, I'm not getting interview calls or like I'm not landing a job or any such thing. I know it is difficult. It's kind of little bit of a tough ride there, but again, you have all the ingredients that you need to be on a role which is aligned to your interest. So how you pivot and how do you show your delta from what you are trying to offer and what they want? If you cover that delta well, you are good to go there. So that's exactly the thing. So how do you do that is your resumes, and how do your resume is the first step because that's the thing that the recruiter always sees. So once you have your resume in hand, properly done, it's not that you will get every single call like or the job that you have applied for the call back for interview, but nevertheless that's the starting point. So that is something which is in your control. So make sure that like that is designed well, and there are definitely guidelines which I will be sharing like after this call like with you, Michelle. I will compile a list of materials that you can pass it on to students, whether it is how recruitment is done at Google or any other thing. So I believe like it's the same across many industries, just that you have to do a little bit of tweaking depending on the company that you are applying. But yeah, Google has a very robust process which ensures that they try to get the right candidate for the right role. And coming back to what I was saying, Google Global Network is a team which is expanding right now because of the kind of growth that we have in the AI space. And we have lots of data centers being built and offices being kind of redesigned. So all these things have to be taken care by this team. So that's the reason why we are having lots of openings in this team. And I have shared all those roles with you, Michelle, like which are in AMER region. So Google's network is divided into three regions. So one is AMER, another is EMEA, and then like the other one is APAC region. So AMER region roles are the ones which I shared. But if someone wants like roles in other regions as well, they can please let me know. So I will be happy to share the list for EMEA and APAC region as well. So we have about 250 openings. Yes, so we have a hand raise, please.
And so for students' purview, so when you say APAC, Asgar, that means Asia Pacific Islands, correct? And EMEA is European regions. Okay.
Thank you for that. Like, sorry, I did not clarify that. So EMEA is, I mean, APAC, first let me start AMER. AMER is all countries in North and South America. EMEA is Europe, Middle East, and North Africa region, or Africa region rather put together. So, and also APAC is India, China, and then like Indonesia and all those countries, Japan. So it's global. It's a global like org which is within Google. So definitely like we have like lots of infrastructure being built. And what's the I mean, it might seem that this is more of an operational role. Let me remind you or the students, like they think that like it's kind of a maintenance and operations role, but definitely it is a major part of it, yes. But at the same time, we do define like how growth happens across the org and what type of like business critical decisions we facilitate. So, I mean, Google Global Network be it or Google Enterprise Network be it, whatever we do becomes eventually the industry standards. So because we maintain one of the largest office networks or data center networks across the world, so which is something which I mean like the indigenous designs that we do influence the industry direction on a broad level. So whether it is like wireless internet or whether it is the protocols that we develop across internet, so all this type of things. So whether it's a Waymo team or whether it's a DeepMind team or whether it's a Gmail team, they have to depend on the infrastructure that we build and ask from them. Eventually, we design those networks. So they might have an ask, they just like tell it in broad level, and we translate that ask into engineering design and then like get it implemented through different teams within Google. And your influence when you are in these roles is immense because maybe a person who is working, say, as a product manager in some particular like team, like his influence, yes, it is definitely there, like no doubt about it. But in this team, like you get to work with every single office, every single like data center that is across your region or sphere of influence. So that's like every single product that is running in those offices, indirectly or indirectly you will be influencing through your actions. So that's the kind of impact and scope that this particular roles that I have shared with you have. So I believe that answered a major part of like what this team's mandate is. And we have like different roles within this. I am not sharing the slide. I'm unable to find one slide which I wanted to, but nevertheless, I did provide you a brief overview of whatever I wanted to say to the level what is available publicly. So yeah, any questions like as far as the rules are concerned before I jump into how the interview process and everything works? So maybe like if you have any specific questions related to any specific roles that are mentioned in that particular list, I'll be more than happy to take up before I jump to the process. Yes, Aliha, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting this panel on board, Michelle, Mark, and Azgar, of course, Renaissance. Thank you. I had two questions in regards to the roles that were posted in the Google Docs for the open roles.
Yes.
One specific was the optics and optical systems tech lead.
Okay.
I try to find, I see that there's the link for the job description right next to it in the B column, but when you click on it, for some reason, the job posting doesn't show up. So I don't know if it's still available or they already found candidates for the role.
Sometimes we do have like reorgs happening where some roles will be open and some roles will be clubbed with other roles. If that link is not opening and if it is not leading to a career page, then it means that role is not open at this point.
Okay, and then I think the second one was the same occurrence with the network operations residency program.
Residency program is something like a 9-month or a year-long program, I believe. If it's okay, this residency programs usually happen at a specific point in time. So, for instance, like August, September, maybe for associate product manager roles. So this is the time when they start the openings for associate product manager roles. So. So likewise, like for network operations residency program, I'm not sure what is the timeline. Maybe I can find out and let you know.
Yeah, this is a 2023 start, but I guess when it came to the job description, I couldn't see the opening as well. in the B column when you click on the link. So I don't know if that was also available still.
Yeah, maybe if it's not opening up on the careers page, it will not be available. So I will
Right.
let you know in some moment that whether it is internal or external candidate, everyone have to go through that same process. So it doesn't matter
Yeah.
like if I'm switching teams within Google, or
Mhm.
if some external candidate is applying from altogether like a university or a company, they have to go through the same process. So if it is not available on careers page, it's not available internally as well.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you.
Please, I mean, welcome. Yeah, any other question?
Just to comment, Aliha,
Yeah.
this is a great risk to raise. Like, hiring's dynamic. So as soon as we push a role out to you, recruiters are already looking at resumes and hiring managers are already doing interviews. Google's a super agile company. So this is with, any role you see anywhere, as soon as you see it, like apply instantly. So my apologies, Lee, how you experienced that. Give me a shout, if you see any of the other roles on that list I shared that you can't seem to find. But just wanted to call that out. That yeah, it's a dynamic process and hiring moves fast. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, so what Michelle said absolutely makes sense, as I will be sharing in the next slides here. Are you all able to see my screen? For some reason, I'm not able to. Okay, so great. Like if you are able to see my screen, that's really good. So as Michelle said, if a role opens, Google has like a well-defined pipeline that needs to be built. So this pipeline is the pool of candidates who are kind of like a funnel sort of a thing, where like they begin at the funnel and then go through the different like steps in the interview process. So when a role is advertised, whether it is in Google or any other company, quickly apply. Like don't wait. Like prepare, have a resume prepared, go right away and then apply. If you wait, the early bird takes the food, they say, right? Like, so someone else might have applied and the pool might have got filled. So if the pool is not filled, you are in luck. If the pool is already filled, they kind of go slow on like taking in more candidates into that pool. So when a role is open, applying it within like 24 to 48 hours is the best suggestion like one can give you. So I hope that answered the question on that. So with this, let me see where that screen is, which I tried to open now. As I'm scrolling, are you all able to see the screen? Or is it not getting scrolled? I mean, I don't know, for some reason. Let me stop and share. Sorry about this. I have like at least 35 windows open. So that's the reason it is getting stuck somewhere like in the last.
I do the same.
Yeah, so I mean, that's although it's
You did
not.
have it up. You did have it up. So you were.
Yeah, but
You're
I
in-
was not having control of which tab is being presented there. So that's the reason I was trying to have and when I scroll, I should be able to see. Otherwise, I don't know what slide like is appearing there.
And folks, I'll mention while Asgar is looking for his materials, I did put my email in the chat. If you haven't already received communication with me already, shoot me a direct message with your email, and then you've got it down there too. So any materials from today's presentation I can share with you after the session. All right, and I see it, Asgar.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. So yeah, the whole process looks something like this. Usually your recruiter should help you with how the I mean, like what and all documents you need during your preparation as you move forward in the different stages of the interview process. But the very first process, application review or a CV review or a resume, whatever, like is the submission material. And then we have like different type of people involved in the initial stage of recruitment. So you have someone called as like a sourcing specialist, and then recruitment coordinator, and then you have an actual recruiter. So when you submit your application to any job portal, at least in big techs, you first reach sourcing like a specialist. So this is the person who usually scrutinizes the resume based on ATS recommendation and then decides whether to move forward with the process if the rubric is met. Like we have a well-defined rubric which is followed by every single person in the process here. So if it is meeting that rubric, so maybe yes, they will push it across to the next person, like who is your recruitment coordinator, who like kind of coordinates between recruiter and applicant. So the recruiter has a list of candidates whom they initially try to reach out to, and when the recruiter speaks to you, they just try to gauge whether the candidate is really good enough to be even like kind of having time with the actual next people, like the phone interviews or like even the on-site interviews. So if someone is not good enough, they try to like avoid like pushing this candidate and wasting time of the other people involved in the process. So it is your recruiter who will set up a cadence call in the beginning for 15 minutes to 20 minutes just to see if you are having that knack of going to the next step. And once that is done, the recruiter schedules your call with your like someone who is like, if you're applying for a TPM role, maybe another TPM who is of 10 years or plus experience. So they will like kind of have a phone call with you. This phone call is for a duration of about 1 hour or so, or maybe 45 minutes, around 45 minutes to 1 hour, it depends. So in this stage of the process, you are required to show the breadth of your knowledge of that particular field. So here, like you have to touch upon multiple projects that you might have done that sounds relevant for the job profile that you are applying for, and build a kind of rapport with the person who is interviewing you, showcasing that like you have like the toolkit or the frameworks that are required to do the job very well. So once the person feels that everything is good, then they push you through the next process. I mean, rather they give their feedback to the recruiter. Based on the feedback, there are like 4 levels, like strong, high, like I mean, push to the next stage, or like no hire, or those sort of things. So that's very well calibrated based on the responses you have provided. So then the recruiter decides based on the other available pool of candidates whether to push you forward in the process or not. So once you are pushed forward to the next step, then you have on-site interviews. So Google has 4 on-site interviews. Each of these interviews play a very important role. Sometimes there are overlaps between the skills that they are looking, and sometimes each interview will be very clearly defined and outlined as to what that skill that they are looking for. So these 4 skills are: one is general cognitive ability, the second one is role-related knowledge. So let me like yeah. So this has description. I will share this material. Uh, Okay, so here you can see, like for example, TPM role, project management is the most important. Like half of your job is more to do with your project management and program management. So essentially, program is set of projects which you try to manage and give continuity to the program end to end. So you have like different type of questions. What are those things that they are looking for? Everything like mentioned here. So maybe it's not here, but okay, so I guess it's not here, but let me say what are those 4 skills. So first is general cognitive ability, second is role related knowledge, third is leadership, and fourth is something called as googliness. So googliness is not something which is personal to you. It's just like having actions and behaviors or attitudes which reflect Google's values. So it is like empathy, it could be transparency. It's not one set of value, it could be multiple like different set of host of things coming together. So what are these 4 different aspects? So let me briefly introduce each of this. So first one is your role, I mean, general cognitive ability. Here, the emphasis is not on the outcome of your answer. Here, the emphasis is thoroughly on how you think. What is your process? What is the way that you think, whether it is structured, unstructured, like the kind of questions that you ask. So even if you get your answer right, you might have performed really well if you have asked the right questions and if you have explained the process in a way which is more logical and understandable. So usually if this process is correct, the answer will also be correct. But let me again remind you, there is no one correct answer. The questions will be deliberately open-ended to ensure that they see your thinking process. So for example, in a program management or a TPM type of question, so one question could be, uh, how would you ensure tomorrow if Northwestern needs to have like a new access control system, how will you ensure that that access control system is designed across Northwestern? So this question, the problem is simple, like having an access control across Northwestern, or it could be Google Office, it could be something else. But the way you design this system, that's what they are looking at. Like what are the things that you take into consideration? Do you think even like a program manager, or are you stuck with one simple technical thing that you are trying to build? So these are the things that are being seen in this particular general cognitive ability, how you solve the problems and those sort of things. How do you structure or how do you break down this problem? So that's your general cognitive ability. Next step is your role related knowledge. Here, depending on the role that you're applying for. So for instance, like sometime back, there was a question on optic fibers and optic networks. So they might ask a little bit more detailed questions on that, depending on the domain or the role. Or if it's a supply chain, then like some concepts related to supply chain, break even points, and like logging in the system and those sort of things. So exclusively dependent on the role, it has elements which are overlapping with general cognitive ability, because most of the technical roles have a very systematic way of driving things or driving like answers or processes. So inherently that has a good advantage for general cognitive ability as well. So that's the reason sometimes the interviewers might try to rate you on both the aspects when you're answering role related knowledge questions. So that's your role related knowledge. Again, like as the name indicates, it's very specific to the role that you are applying. But let me tell you something which might be important, if not for these roles, maybe other roles in Google. Sometimes you will see openings in Google career website as TPM, Google Cloud. That's it, nothing else. In this type of scenarios, you don't know what technical role that they are wanting you to put in, because you are not very clear about the domain. So in the first case, like it was like supply chain, very clear. And the other case, like it was optics or optic networks, it was very clear. But when you say like TPM Google Cloud, it means nothing, because in Google Cloud there are thousands of teams. You don't know which team you are going into. So how do you answer this type of questions? So here the tip is for you to showcase one particular skill which you are strong at, and make sure your answers demonstrate that skill. So in my case, like as Michelle said in the beginning of this like interaction, so did I use my previous knowledge or previous experiences in getting the interviews done here in Google? So I leveraged my networks knowledge, and also there are some classes like which I took in Northwestern, like social networks analysis and other marketing class as a part of my program, where I use these frameworks coupled with like my previous experience. So I built my own niche. So when you do this, what happens is the recruiter sees that like there are lots of openings across Google Cloud. Then they try to put you in a bracket where like based on your responses in the interview, they will see which teams might be interested in you. So there is no inherent like mapping of this role to any particular team beforehand. So the team matching happens later. So this type of interviews are a little bit low hanging fruits, because you define what your skills are going to be. So that's something which is important thing which I wanted to mention in role related knowledge. So you can build your own role profile based on your knowledge there in the field. Like it could be computer science, it could be quantum cryptography, or any other thing. And next comes like leadership. So if you are in like your program, try to ensure as many opportunities that you can leverage. It could be a club leadership, or it could be like volunteering for something. So this type of activities that you do in your university or in your previous jobs would play a very important role to demonstrate that leadership attributes. So they will give you questions as to how would you drive a team, or how would you have like say a communication gap addressed, or like how would you agree or make a team influence, like where people are not agreeing and having consensus. So all these are leadership skills at the end of the day. So demonstrate that in your resumes when you are submitting it, because it's really very important that leadership skill shows up. It's not just that like you have good grades or any such thing. In addition to good grades, having those experiences when you are doing your programs definitely adds value. So as like if I have to give a live example of myself, like when I came to Northwestern, I had a kind of resume, but when I was like leaving Northwestern, or when I was in the interview process, so my resume had drastically changed because of the opportunity that I pursued here in Northwestern. So these are things which you can create for yourself. You can reach out to your program directors, you can reach out to the coordinators in the Northwestern team and build opportunities for yourself. So you need not wait for opportunity to come. You can build your own opportunities. If you know someone like, and if you want to schedule a talk, reach out to your program coordinator. Maybe that might be something like interesting for other students, and you would have driven that particular like session or webinar or whatever it is. So that's where leadership comes in. And final is googliness. So this is like something like which overlaps all the like things that you said. So they might see your personalized experiences in how you manage your teams, how you interact with your colleagues, how you interact with your peers, and also what you do, doing the right thing. That's one of the Google values. So these are something like very difficult to define, but very easy to identify. So it's not that Google can claim ownership of this googliness attributes. These are the attributes which a well-read, a well-educated, and a well-behaved citizen of any country would have. So that's something which I would like to emphasize with values that demonstrate good ethics, I would put it. So these are the things which are measured in googliness. So yeah, sometimes like you might have an advantage and still you give that advantage to others. That's googliness, because you felt that the other person deserves it more. So these are the things that have a very important like impact on the interviewers. So these are the four attributes. No, I mean, like any interview, whether it is like at the entry level or whether it is at the director level or VP level, will always test you for these four attributes. So only thing that differs between different levels is the scope of your work and the impact that you would have had. Maybe your impact is limited to your class or your group or the team that you have been doing work with, or it could be an impact across entire Northwestern, or it could be impact across your entire org that you have worked in. So that impact decides which kind of work you will be doing eventually. But whatever it is, like once you come in Google, it's very easy to kind of get into different teams, and there are lots and lots of opportunities for you to grow. So once your entire like this 4 interviews are done, then the feedback from every single interviewer goes back to the same recruiter. So recruiter compiles a packet for you based on your resume, the feedback from all these 5 interviewers, and maybe sometimes even before going to the hiring committee, they will, as I said in the beginning, match you to different teams. So sometimes this team is not identified beforehand, so they allow you to speak to different hiring managers within Google. So if a hiring manager also expresses interest, they get the support letter from them, put it in your packet, and then send the entire thing to something called as hiring committee. So hiring committee comprises like senior Googlers who might have who are not related to the interviewers who conducted your interview. So every single, like it comprises maybe 4 to 5 members, and every single member goes through your entire packet thoroughly and come prepared for the meeting, which is scheduled every week, I believe, or maybe every fortnight. I don't know when it is scheduled. So depending on the team again. So once your like packet is reviewed by 4 or 5 members within this hiring committee, every single member should approve your case. So it is not that the decision is taken based on majority, rather it should be an anonymous like decision, where even if a person is having differences, the differences will be discussed in the committee. And if the person agrees who had difference initially, and then like he gets convinced from the committee's recommendation that yes, you can be hired, then he also changes his decision to hire. So generally you can see that like it's somewhere anywhere between like 5 members here for interview, and then recruiter 6, and then maybe like teams, depending on how many hiring teams you meet, you might have spoken to somewhere around 8 to 10 people during your interview process. And once the hiring committee gives you a high recommendation, then the recruiter reaches out to you with an offer, and maybe negotiate your salary or whatever is the case. So this is the whole process of like interview at Google. Sometimes it takes like within 2 months. Sometimes like if you are in a college and if you are ready with the start date, then like the recruiter will realign your interviews in such a way that you are given maximum time for your it so happens that you are able to complete your program at university and then come and join. So recruiter is flexible on that. So it totally depends. It's case to case basis, I would say. So this is the whole recruitment process at Google. One suggestion I would give, especially when you are attending manager interviews, is whether it is product manager, whether it is program manager, or whether it is technical program manager, any other sort of manager, you might be given behavioral interviews and hypothetical interviews. The most important distinguishing thing between these two interviews is students end up answering behavioral interviews in a hypothetical way most of the times, because behavioral interview should come from your experience. It could be your work experience, or it could be something like the teams that you might be working in your Northwestern. So always ensure that the question that is asked, say, tell me about a time when you had a difference with your team member and how did you go about it. So take an example from your teams, like thousand, like lots of teams would be there, like in your courses which should be formed dynamically, or sometimes like defined before even the course begins. So build experiences from this type of examples. Don't say I would do this, I could do this in a behavioral interview. That's where most of the students get it wrong. It might seem that it is a very simple thing when I'm emphasizing it, but when you're actually giving a mock interview or an actual interview, you will realize the importance of being consciously taking examples from your past. How to do that is, before your interview is scheduled, take time to prepare for your interviews by identifying 5 to 6 projects from which are very impactful, which you think will help drive a particular point, and then like have it in front of you if it's a virtual interview, because the interviewer is not going to see like if you have pasted like a posted sticker there and with all the 4 projects mentioned. So take those examples, and then like depending on the question, adapt these examples or the projects that you have done to the questions that are being asked. So that way you have like a very easy access to whatever you have done, rather than thinking through the answer as the question is coming. So this is what I would say, preparing beforehand. So it's not that you have to kind of read through lots and lots of material. It's just that identify 5 to 6 things, because your interview is not going to be beyond 45 minutes. And in 45 minutes, effective conversation can happen only around 4 to 5 projects, not more than that. So all these 4 to 5 projects that you take, it's your discretion. Again, you are driving the interview depending on the questions like that come there. So these are the tips that I could give at this point as I provide you the overview. And yeah, if there is any other question that you would like to ask, maybe let me see what was the agenda here.
Oh, how do you pick those 5 or 6 projects that are most impactful?
Yeah, that's depends on each person. So I will be sending out some material to Michelle. So in that there are like specifics as to what they are looking for. So based on that specifics, so maybe communication, or maybe something like technical, like judgment, or maybe something like program management skills. So when I identify what skill is being assessed, it's easy for me to identify what type of project should I be taking. So for example, in my case, for this particular like a common question which is found in interviews, how do you handle uh, a person who disagrees with you in a team? So I took an example from my MEM 402 class, like engineering management. So we had a strategy to run a business in a simulated environment. So I had a view, another person had a different view. So I was like considerate about why that person is having that view, and then I asked, back it up with data, and they were able to provide data, and then I changed my opinion. So this drives from 3 different things. Google is, or any other big tech will be always data driven company. So I changed my decision only when I had data. So, and also when I say that I changed my decision, it allows the interviewer to know that I am amenable to change in views if it is backed properly, and I do know what I should be having or seeing to change my view. And that's data driven, so it's very analytical. So it's not that I'm just based on someone else's hunch, I'm changing the decision. So these projects, to answer your question, should be something like based on the skills and based on the experience of the student itself. So it need not be common for every single student. These projects can be different for different students, but the attributes that come up from these projects should be in line with whatever the specifics that I will be sharing. I hope that answered the question.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mark. Any other questions? I think I have covered most of the things. Expected length of selection process from application to open offer. Yeah, and referral program. This is like every Googler is eligible to refer candidates whom they see that like they have worked with them, or they have like interaction. I mean, like some sort of a connection. In my case, Northwestern students being like Northwestern being my alma mater, so I can like always reach out to Northwestern students and refer them. So having worked on something similar, or having worked with the candidate whom I'm referring, will be very helpful. But yeah, if Professor Mark or Michelle can justify, yes, these are good candidates, I will be more than happy to refer. That's just that like if I mean, based on what you write for that 150 word narrative, third person narrative, why is this candidate a good fit for Google? That defines like how the recruiter sees it. But again, it's not that only criteria that they will be seeing. They will see your resume, and everything is driven by you, your own, like from your own end. We just refer the candidate, and Googler, I mean the recruiter or the sourcing coordinator will see that, okay, this is a referred candidate. That's the only difference. So other than that, there is no kind of favor or disfavor or any such thing in the actual interview itself. So once you are in the process of interview at Google, the referral hardly matters. It's all your feedback that the interviewers will be giving you based on the responses that you have provided.
And if I may come off mute, some students that are here on the call today, we had sent around a Google form to help facilitate the process of Azgar referring students to Google roles through the Google referral program. It just helps make it a little bit more streamlined process for him. So for those students who have done it, excellent. We were glad to receive your information. For those students on the call that haven't done it yet, I just dropped the link to the Google form in the chat. And then, feel free if you lose this, because I know sometimes we close the Zoom and then the chat disappears, shoot me a message so you can get the form from me. Some of those roles that Azgar shared that are specific to his team, they are looking to hire quickly. So please make sure if you're interested to submit your resume quickly so Azgar can refer you.
Yeah, preferably if you send it before September 1st, I will be happy to submit these referrals in the first week of September. Yeah, Pooja, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I think I've learned a lot from what you've said today. I just wanted to know what are the expectations of for entry-level jobs, because most of the entry-level jobs you apply at tech companies, they expect 4 or 5 years of experience, even though they don't explicitly mention it, they do expect it. So like for people who are fresh graduates and don't have much, like I have 3 years of experience in another as a quality test engineer, but right now I'm trying to get into the development role. So what is the how to navigate the gap?
So this is something like very important. When they say experience, it has to be relevant experience. So that's one thing like which people miss most of the times. They think that like I have 5 years experience and now I'm going to be a product manager. So if you are going to be a product manager, you should have 5 years of experience in product management. If you are going to be a TPM, you should have at least like 2 to 3 years or 5 years of experience based on whatever is the requirement there in project management at least. If not, it's not necessary that like you need to have a designation of product manager or a program manager or a TPM to enter the TPM role. But the functions that you describe in your resume should be in line with whatever is the role requirement there. And how to address the gap for entry level programs or entry level like roles is you have lots of opportunity in your master's program or undergrad programs to participate in projects. So these projects can act like proxy for your experience. So if you can do these projects and demonstrate impact, that is something like it will definitely land you like at least an interview call. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So do leverage the project environment that is very much in Northwestern. So that will definitely be of great help. So as I said, like in my resume, 40 to 50% of things that I mentioned there when I submitted my resume to Google came from Northwestern time. So that is within a span of 4 to 5 months, I built those much of like different aspects that will go into my resume and then made sure I showcase them. So that's one thing like which you can always do, which is in your control. Yeah. Cool. Okay, I see some questions here. See, as I said, it depends on when the role opened, and then when do you submit your resume. And also, it's not necessary that everything that we submit should be going through the recruitment or the interview process. So when I did apply, first time I did not hear back, but only when I applied for another role, that's when I heard back. So if you find that there are roles relevant, don't wait, go ahead and apply for other roles as well. So it's not that like I have submitted and then I wait for a very long time for another role to appear. So if you find like you have submitted one application and you're not hearing back and you already find like another role which is aligned with you, don't wait, just go ahead and apply. All you need is one call, like, and one job. Even if you have applied for 10 jobs and if you get 10 jobs, it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, you'll be doing only one job, right? So yeah, Pooja, go ahead again.
I think it was Aliha, maybe.
Oh, Aliha, sorry. Sorry, my bad.
No, I'm sorry. You just answered my question at the very last of it. Sorry. So I was listening. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
It's about the applying to multiple jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, multiple roles, and maybe I would suggest one thing. I don't know like how it will be taken because there is no data backing for what I'm going to say now, but I did see like things change. So I used my Gmail ID or like a personal ID when I applied for this role instead of a university role. So if you're maybe applying for university role, then use your university ID as your email ID for like submission. But if you are applying for like roles which require experience or something, then I don't know. Like I prefer using a personal email ID over like a university email ID, because maybe they might have a bias towards the industry candidate and they might be preferring them, because or maybe they might be trying to avoid the hassle of like waiting till your program gets completed to hire you. So those sort of things. So I mean, as I said, there is no data backing for what I said, but if you want, you can do that. Like for university roles, do apply Northwestern. Definitely, there is a separate recruiter for Northwestern University roles in Google, and I was trying to reach out to them to see if they can join, but they were out of office today or like for some PTO holiday. That's the reason they were not able to join. So yeah, any other questions? I think we are at the end of time, and I hope I have covered most of the things that I wanted to share.
Hey, Azgar, I want to thank you for taking your time and your expertise. I think the students got a lot out of it. I'm hoping we can share the recording with some of the students in MEM. I'd like to post this on the YouTube channel for MEM, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay, good. All right, thank you very much. Any last minute questions? Otherwise, thank you very much, Azgar. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Azgar.
Thank you so much, Professor Mark. Thank you, Michelle. It's always a pleasure to interact with Northwestern.
Okay, take care.